All right, Jordan Sanchez, Revolution 935, Miami's #1 dance music station. And I'm here with a special guest of mine. I actually been hanging out with this guy for the last week or so. And he's an up-and-coming DJ and producer. He's signed to Brooklyn Fire, Tommy Sunshine's label. And one of the talented up-and-coming guys in the scene right now. His name is Collin Oliver. What up, bro? How's it going?
Hey, man. How you doing?
Doing great, man. You're in Miami. It's your first time in Miami, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. I want to ask you about what your first impressions of Miami are, especially not just as like your first time as a DJ and producer, but also just at your age, because like a lot of venues. How old are you, by the way?
18.
So you're 18. So a lot of venues, they will not allow you in Miami. Obviously, it's like so I want to know from that point of view as well. Like how is it like experiencing Miami from someone under the age of 21, under the drinking age, basically, because this is a very much a drinking town, you know?
Honestly, just wow is the first word that comes to mind. Flying into the airport, walking through, showing up, and even just walking through the streets and feeling the energy of even like Brickell and just seeing places I didn't even know existed. Just amazing.
Yeah, actually, okay, so it's funny because this weekend I also hung out with a bunch of wrestlers. AEW, right. Yeah, AEW was in town, and they said the same thing. Like, Miami has this energy, and you said you mentioned it. Yeah, you mentioned it. And it's like it's true. Miami does have a very separate energy. I want you to talk a little bit more about that when you came through the airport and like you started seeing all the different neighborhoods. What surprised you the most in Miami as far as that vibe and that energy?
I think like the first thing that surprised me was just like the general like feeling of it. Like New York is like people don't like look at you in like the face and they don't feel like they smile as much. But like in Miami, everybody was just like happy and out and like doing things. And coming through the pandemic, I'm like, wow, everybody's just like doing things and living their life, and it was just amazing to see. And the feel is amazing.
Yeah, man. And as a DJ and a producer, what is like a city like Miami, a DJ and a producer outside of Miami? Because a lot of times, right, you know, our focus, at least for me and local DJs in the area, like we look at Miami with a specific lens. I want to know how a DJ and a producer outside of Miami, from where are you from again?
New York.
New York. So from a New Yorker's perspective of Miami as a DJ and a producer.
Well, I would say like the weather is like encompassing, and it's like different kind of humidity, and like closer to the equator, it feels just different. Like the vibe, and when you go to like open your laptop and play a song, and you look out towards the skyline, and you just feel the energy and the wind, and like feel that breeze. It's just like totally different.
Yeah,
it's nothing like I've ever experienced.
Yeah, absolutely. And, what have you noticed as far as like musical styles? Like, first of all, let's actually go and like, what have you experienced as far as music or clubs in Miami? We actually spent some time, so I know the answer to this, but I want to hear it from the horse's mouth. What have you done? What have you experienced in Miami as far as like clubbing?
So like we went to Space like last night, so that was great. But let me start where we began. And even just dropping in here, I thought it was going to be like more like typical like Latin vibe, but then it was like infused with like different things and like progressive like tones that I didn't expect.
Yeah.
So I felt like it's like really, really cutting edge, and it was really impressive to like hear and like process and like wow, this is actually going on. Like I wasn't aware of this.
Yeah, no, it's funny you mentioned that, because Miami definitely has like its own place in dance music. It's a very weird it's a very weird space in the dance music world that Miami sits in, but it's a pretty prominent one. I mean, we have one of the best clubs, if not the best clubs in the world, Space. How you experienced that? How did you? What did you think about it? What was your impression of Space?
I was like, even like driving in, like I got in the parking lot and they had like Space like written on the back wall, and I was like, that looks cool. And just even the art of the surrounding area was like inviting and had a different tone to like a New York club.
Yeah. And the music, what did you think about the like? What was your first impression of like the music at Space?
Yeah, it was like walking in. It's like this totally like perfect vibe they had set. They had like tribal beats.
Yeah,
and like it was just going, and everybody was like connected and feeling it, and like, grooving along, and no one was questioning it. So it was just perfect.
That's one of those. The special things about Space, one of the magical things about Space is that everyone is really connected inside that terrace, one of the legendary 100%. Venues of all over the world, really. So, it obviously has its own different vibe, but let's talk about you and what you've been able to grow and do in your hometown in New York. You've released tons of new music, in the last few years, and for a young guy at your age, it's really impressive because you've already been signed to a label with a lot of respect behind it in Brooklyn Fire. So how is it to be a DJ and producer trying to break through? But actually, getting it done, right? Because you're releasing music on a good label at that age. Like, what are some obstacles that you might come into, or that you feel like is a hindrance, or what do you think? Maybe your age is an advantage.
Right. So I'll touch on my age.
Yeah.
So like being 18 now is different. When I was growing up, like I started when I was 13.
Okay.
And from there, it just seemed to like naturally progress to a point where I realized that my age was actually like a whole thing. Like I didn't realize it. Like I just kind of saw the world and everybody as people. I didn't think much into it. And then I realized it's like, oh, you're not 21 or whatever. I was like, oh, but I just want to dance. So it's been like a struggle, but there's really good ways to get around it, and a lot of that's just like really getting on the ground and like meeting the people and not being so like artificial with it, and like being personable and like actually knowing the owners of the clubs and the people who are behind the scenes pulling all the strings, and making sure that they really know who you are.
Yeah.
And making that point to them that you mean business and you're not just some like quote unquote kid.
Right. Oh, that's cool. So you feel like you have something to prove, like
in a little bit. Yeah.
You want to prove people wrong, because I'm not just a kid trying to be a DJ like any other kid that's trying to be a DJ. You're also producing really good music, and you're releasing it on Tommy Fine's label, Brooklyn Fire.
Yep.
Talk to me about how it is to release music on such a respected label, and being associated with someone like Tommy, who's such a legend in the community.
Yeah, so like some backstory on Tommy. Like I met Tommy at ADE in 2018. I was only like 15.
Yeah, and I was there, by the way, at that ADE.
I didn't even know you yet. That's
we didn't know each other at all.
Small world,
Yeah.
But yeah, just like Tommy was willing to just like not just blow me off and like actually hear what I had to say, and then he wanted to meet up and just have tacos and whatnot, and then I played him like a very pre-version of Help Me, and he just like, this is straight up our alley and like piano amazingness, and he was like all for it. And I don't think I even believed in the music as much as he did at that time, and that's what it's like. Once people like around you start like saying, hey, what you're doing is actually like something notable, you start to believe it yourself. Like even if you didn't believe it within, and now you're like, oh, I'm actually doing something like that people care about,
Yeah. So I want to ask you a question about your age, because you did bring it up and you say that as like a sticking point for several people. Do you think your age holds you back when it comes to opportunities and in like DJ bookings or getting releases or anything like that? Do you think that it holds you back, or do you think it's an advantage overall?
It's like it's a two-pronged like thing, like a double-sided sword.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like in a certain aspect, like I'll go over the negatives and then I'll go over the positives.
Yeah.
Like negatively, it's like, okay, yeah, I'm not like legal and 21, and like, I face value. If I just walk into somewhere, they're just gonna tell me no. Right. That's baseline. But at the same time, it's like being young as I am, doing what I'm doing, it's more unique.
Yeah.
And people my age aren't even thinking in certain parts of what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So to get to know me, they'll realize that I mean it, and that what I'm doing holds weight, and that I'm not just doing it for like some kind of like, I don't know, artificial reason or like side hustle. It's my life,
It just, it's hard because a lot of times people get that impression when you're young, and like, you do have to go through kind of like the growing pains of like being the young guy, and like there is a period of proving yourself, but at the same time you have time on your side, which is like the biggest advantage, I think, because a lot of guys start either too late or they start at the wrong time, and you have so much time in your back pocket that you could still find, even if you wanted to redefine your sound in a way, you still have time to even experiment with that, and it not really like, and you still have so much left in your career after. It's actually quite a luxury to have, to be honest. I know a lot of people that got into the game, late, and I mean, it's not. I don't think it's a big deal at all. To me, it doesn't matter where you get in. If people are good, if people are talented, they show up, and that's my point basically. Right. Like, despite your age, you've been able to show up and to play like at amazing places. You've been to Amsterdam and ADE. Talk about where your DJ, like what DJing and producing, where it's taken you as far as your travels and stuff.
I was like, damn, like ADE was crazy. Like, just even like, so like different places have different energy, as I've come to figure out. And Amsterdam was like this Dutch like scene where every DJ is like a celebrity, and it just didn't make any sense to me because I'm coming from New York where they think I'm a wedding jock. I'm like, that's not who I am.
Yeah.
so like Amsterdam was the complete 180 flip of that. So I get on the ground and I'm like, everyone's like, oh, you're DJing, you produce, you play piano, like all these things, and you're like, yeah, like I thought like that was pretty normal. Yeah. I guess. Yeah. So Amsterdam, playing there was amazing. Everyone's so responsive in a different way than Miami.
Yeah, right.
Like some of them, like I feel like in Amsterdam, they like know the music like really well.
Yeah.
And that was cool too. So you play a song and they all know the words.
Yeah, that's cool. That's funny because like we touched upon like Miami, and then the Dutch Amsterdam vibe. Is there anywhere else that you thought that the vibe was like really cool that's outside of New York?
Yeah. For one, before the pandemic in February, I was in Milwaukee.
Oh, nice.
For Tommy's album tour, like the beginning of it, before it got canceled, but we didn't know that.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
But yeah, he just absolutely like threw down in this place. And I didn't expect it because I was going to Milwaukee like not really thinking anything of it. I wasn't aware. I just didn't know.
Yeah, I've never been, so I don't know either. Yeah, I'm completely ignorant.
It's outside of Chicago, right? So I guess that makes sense looking back. But yeah, I mean, Tommy just threw down like every record from Brooklyn Fire, and they all did amazing. No doubt, like Help Me, Save the Rave, like all these records just blew up the whole joint more than I thought they would in other places.
Yeah. How does it feel for for you to like listen to someone like Tommy, like such a big guy in the scene, play some of your tracks? How does it feel?
It's still surreal, like because like you make that and you're alone and you're in the groove and in the studio, and you don't really know until you see it. I'm like about believing it when I see it to a degree, and once I got that crowd reaction that tells me that what I did like actually counts, it's like it's amazing.
Yeah, that's so cool, man. I mean, I know that the feeling of hearing your song anywhere, it gives you a great feeling. You actually had one of your mixes featured here on Revolution 935. This past Friday was a Friday night mix session. So how does it feel to have your music played out to people in Miami?
Oh, it felt great. It felt like I was looking out of my hotel at the skyline, and I'm thinking, I see the cars over the bridge, and I'm like, somebody might be tuned to the station. Or probably is.
I mean, mostly, right. We're a pretty popular station around here, so yeah.
And I'm thinking, like, my mix is being played, and people are hearing me spin. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's a great feeling. I'm glad that, coming to Miami has kind of like, has been a positive experience for you. At least I'm assuming. Yeah, okay, good. And that's great, because, like, I always love to hear when people from out of town, especially DJs and producers, and especially people from New York, because, I feel like I'm a little bit of a New Yorker, Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. A little bit, right? So I love that people from New York always are open-minded and welcoming of about the idea of going to Miami and especially a DJ and a producer to come here and work and grind and that's what you're doing and that's what you've been doing for a while now. So we're gonna wrap up now, but I wanted to play one of your tracks. So what track did you want to throw down here?
I think we're gonna play an ID.
Okay, so we're going to play an unreleased track from Collin Oliver right here on Revolution 935. You've never heard this before. It's an exclusive, and let's see what happens. Let's see what they think about it, huh? Here it is, Collin Oliver on Revolution 935.